Chapter 4. T accounts. The key points for this chapter. Journals are entered into accounts in the general ledger. In a manual system, they are entered into T accounts with debits on the left and credits on the right. This is plus money to the left and minus money to the right, the opposite of a number line. As financial transactions are created, they soon start to build up into an unmanageable list. In a manual system, to break this down, we post these transactions to T accounts in a book known as the general ledger, to segment our list of journals into manageable accounts that collate and describe a collection of financial transactions to that particular account. So here we have a T account here, and so it's a nice T. And on the left hand side we post our debits. So in our journals where we've had our debits and credits in there, we post, this might be the bank account, we post our debits on the left, our plus money to the left, and our credit amounts on the right. Now this may seem a bit strange at first, because if you note, this layout is the opposite to what you've been used to on a number line in a mathematics class. And there's a key source of confusion for students understanding T accounts, why we don't have the negative money, the credits to the left, and the positive money to the right. The reason is time. That the accounting system was invented well before the number line. The accounting system was codified in the 15th century, the end of the 15th century, I think it's 1492 in Venice, and the number line is created in England in the end of the 19th century, I think it's 1890 or something. So as a consequence, the number line seems to have been put the wrong way around. Nothing can be done about that now. The entire world has its debits to the left and its credits to the right, so you can't change that, because you change the entire world, and the number line actually is less important worldwide than T accounts. So that's why we have our debits to the left and the credits to the right, and you just have to get used to it, I'm afraid. Now, students often ask, what's the point of debits and credits in a T account? Why not just have a long list of transactions like this here? And it's actually very difficult to see in an AAT exam why we have that, because there's so few transactions that you'll see in an AAT sort of exam, really, that they won't really sort of have enough transactions to highlight the reasons why we have T accounts. In a digital account system, where the computer is infallible, in terms of the way in which it aggregates numbers, this is how transactions are actually shown, with a long list with pluses and minuses of income. So that's how it looks like in a digital account. However, in a manual system, when we're attempting to reduce mistakes and check for errors, the T account layout is faster and it's just less prone to error. So to give an example, is it easier to add up two sets of numbers, 22 sets of numbers, so 20 numbers and 20 numbers, and add them together and see if they equal one another? Or is it easier to add up 40 numbers and see if they equal 0? Now actually it's easier to quicker and less prone to error to add up the two sets of 20 numbers than the one set of 40 numbers, and that's the only reason why we have T accounts, is it's simply fast to add and it's easier to spot the errors. It's also a good layout in terms of the way in which you can sort of record and see where the other side of the journal is as well. So you'd have like a debit on the left hand side with the name here. It's going to go to somewhere else. So in this instance here, the trade receivables, and then you can look at the trade receivables and see if it's on the other side of the account. Whilst the list of figures in an exam setting we nowhere near as long as you're going to see in real life, and so is the approach can be difficult to see, in exams you'll still use T accounts rather than lists. And the reason why is because it will make it more methodical in your approach, far less likely to add incorrectly and more likely to transpose journals more accurately. Time is not going to be a factor within your exam, so you'd be far better off laying out your T accounts and taking your time, and then effectively be in a position to check your work, than to rush it and not use T accounts. The description of the T account in the manual system will be the journal number, either the journal number and some kind of journal number and the narrative. In an exam, you're just going to put the narrative. You don't necessarily need to, but you want some kind of thing that you can check back and forth of exactly where we put it. So in this, I'll give an example here I might have produced for our journals that we previously produced, and you can see here I've got capital 30,000, and I can see on the one side there's the capital on the debit side, and there's the capital on the debit side. Now if I added this all up and it didn't balance, what I would do is I would go through and I would tick these off and see which side I'd done incorrectly and put 2 debits in or 2 credits in, and that's, you can see spatially it's easier to do than to look down a long list and look for the negatives and the positives. So that's the whole reason for T accounts. It just simply makes it easier to add.